And we welcome you to another edition of This Is Wrestling. It is Lee Versage, alongside the one and only Hornsey. How are you again this week, Zach? It is a pleasure to be able to talk to you, Hornsey, for the second time.
I don't know if I will ever fully accept the Hornsey nickname here, Lee. I don't know if it's ever going to be really capturing for me. It's certainly captured the fan base here at This Is Wrestling, but nonetheless, I'm doing good. Another episode, as you mentioned. We already have, if you include the Dark Side of the Ring audio, we already have 2 pieces of content out there. We're doing a third this week. I am looking forward to this episode. We're going to talk about Mexico, right? We're going to talk about everything going on in Mexico, right? Nothing big happened to the other company and anything like that.
Maybe. First of all, Zach, whether you think it's going to catch on and you keep saying all of this crap about Hornsey, I'm going to keep calling you that, and so are the rest of the This Is Wrestling family. And we are a family. So if I tell them to say Hornsey because that's your name, then that's your name. So you can keep saying that you're not taking it in, and that's fine. You might not be receiving it well, but that I can tell you is the last of my concerns. I have big concerns this week. But we are going to talk about Mexico, and I got some really good feedback from a number of people about our last episode, which was nice. And I thought we had a very thoughtful discussion on kind of the state of where we are. And I remember, Zach, it wasn't all that long ago. It was like 3 nights ago or something. But I remember saying at the end of it, and, Thomas from Halifax had a nice email, and there were others that echoed the same sentiments. And I said earlier this week that I would take a step back. And we'll evaluate, I would, at least kind of the one-offs, and not let things spiral because of a couple of bad things that, in my opinion, have happened in the last little while. We'll try and look at things fresh, Zach.
Okay.
Yeah. And that was really the moral of last week, of earlier this week, right?
Going in with a clear conscience, right?
Well, I've changed my mind, Zach. I've changed my mind because as we hung up, Monday Night Raw was on, and here, Zach, I can't even. We're going to talk about Mexico. We're going to have some nice thoughts about AEW. Some nice thoughts about the rest of the people, the Mikes and the Scotts and the Thomases and all of the people who love their WWE. It's amazing. I'm so happy for you and your 6-year-old. But you can hear, Zach, in my voice, as we hung up, who made their way out onto Monday Night Raw. Tell me who came out on Monday, Zach.
Well, I noticed through the fireworks and the pyro and the smoke that literally as soon as we hung up our recording, we got finished recording, we wrapped it up for the night and said, all right, everything is good. I look at my screen and I see one Bill Goldberg walking out there, limping out there, ready to confront Gunther and challenge him for that World Heavyweight Championship at Saturday night's main event. Get excited, Lee. Let's go.
What I'm trying to do is maintain some sense of decorum, professionalism, and try to remember the words that I was saying 3 days ago, folks. WWE, yes, we should all give it a chance. Thomas's 6-year-old's excited to see John Cena. It's excited. 58-year-old limping out Bill Goldberg gets a title shot. Zach, listen, I'm a Punk guy. You're a Punk guy.
Yep.
Punk doesn't deserve a title shot.
Agreed.
He's getting one. He's getting one in Saudi Arabia. We said so. He doesn't deserve it. What are they doing? They're playing upon his former stance of not wanting to go to Saudi Arabia, and now he's going, and they're literally making that play out on television. But if CM Punk doesn't deserve a title shot, I know who else doesn't deserve a title shot. So now I'm going to have to change my tone. I've changed my tone already, but I'm going to need the Thomases and the Mikes and the Scotts and whoever else to tell me one thing that is entertaining about 58-year-old Limpberg coming out and getting a title shot over against one of the best wrestlers in the world on a major program. And I know we went down the list of R-Truth, Ron Killings, suddenly a main event guy. But it's okay because Cena's there and he doesn't bump, but it's fine. And all these guys that don't do anything, they're in the main event. Remind me how old Ron Killings is?
Ron Killings is 53 years old.
Okay. Remind me how old John Cena is?
I believe he's 48 years old. 47, 48.
Remind me how old Bill Goldberg is.
Bill Goldberg is 58 years old, going to turn 59 later this year.
What are we doing? What are we doing? This isn't entertaining. I just don't. I can't buy sitting down with your 6-year-old. I can't do it. I can't buy it. Because there's got to be something in there for mom and dad too. And this isn't it. Zach, honestly, I'm going to ask you an honest question.
Sure.
Do you know anybody? You know a lot of people in the wrestling business and wrestling fans. Do you know anybody that honestly can look you in the eye and tell you that they want and are excited to see Bill Goldberg in the ring?
I didn't hear or see a lot of people, if anybody, really clamoring for 58-year-old going to turn 59 Bill Goldberg coming back into the ring to have a match against Gunther.
At least I got some entertainment out of the fact that Gunther saying he had 3 minutes. I guess I have 3 minutes.
Yep. Not a reference to the 3-minute warning, of course.
No. If this match goes 2 minutes and 59 seconds and Gunther wins, I will actually change everything I just said. So I'm trying to look at this objectively. I went in Monday night. I'm going in fresh, folks. I'm going in fresh. And Bill Goldberg was like the first person I saw. And it just changed me right back to everything I felt beforehand. I had a fresh coat of paint on, Zach. And it got scraped off before it even dried. I don't want to pick sides between WWE and AEW because I want them both to be really good. Okay, that is what I actually want. I don't want one side to be better than the other. I want to tune into AEW and be completely entertained. And then I want to tune into WWE and be completely entertained. Because that's more entertainment for me. I don't want to pick sides. Is it fair to say that the WWE is leading the charge when it comes to making sure that we have to decide by putting events on the same night, time after time after time? Is that fair to blame it?
Yeah, especially recently.
Right. So when's Saturday night's main event with Bill Goldberg against Gunther?
That is July 12th. Happens to be the same night as AEW's All In show.
No.
What?
So I don't want to have to pick a lane because I want both to be good. But if you're asking me if I'm going to tune in to see Will Ospreay and Swerve Strickland and Kenny Omega and Kazuchika Okada and John Moxley and Hangman Page, or Bill Goldberg going after the title? What a joke. What a joke. This has got to be a joke. It's supposed to be funny to somebody. The answer is not me. I'll stop, Zach. I'm so angry about this because I went in and it's like I cleared all of the dirt that had built up with my WWE. And I'm going, you know what? Thomas has convinced me. I'm going to go in fresh. And Bill Goldberg's the first person I see.
Literally.
Yes. No, I went downstairs and turned the television on and Bill Goldberg was on. Like, what are we doing? Explain it to me.
Well, you've got a guy that has been clamoring for a retirement match for however long it's been now that he's been clamoring for a retirement match. You got the Saturday night's main event show, and it's taking place in Atlanta, so why not do the retirement match of Bill Goldberg in Atlanta, Georgia? And I think that is the logic there. Obviously, it's not lost on me that this is also their idea of countering what AEW is going to be putting on that same day. I should mention, I believe the Saturday night's main event show is an evening show and All In is an afternoon show, but still a counter that they are trying to put in. So get it out of the way at Saturday night's main event. It's only going to last 2 or 3 minutes anyways, hopefully. If it goes longer than 3.5 minutes, we're going to be in deep trouble here, Lee. I respect the work of Gunther, but I don't know if he can get Goldberg to a 5-minute match. It'd be very, very tough. But having said all of that, I believe that is the plan. I won't lie to you, Lee, from a content perspective, I hope he wins the belt because this is just great content.
Why would you say that? Why would you say that?
Oh, the content would just be fantastically. I mean, think about it. The week after week, having to hear Lee Versage be mad that Goldberg is the world heavyweight champion in the year of our Lord 2025. I think that's what the listeners want. I mean, the listeners have had enough of me rambling and going crazy and losing my mind. I think it's time for a change here, Lee. I think it's time for you to lose your mind here for the next little bit. And so I will be personally cheering for Bill Goldberg to win, not because I want to see him win, not because I want to see 58-year-old Bill Goldberg out there trying to go toe-to-toe with Gunther, but more because I think of the content possibilities here on this very show and what it could provide. So go Bill Goldberg, I say.
Yeah, yes, go home, Pete. But my question to you then is, you think that I'm going to be that involved to be mad week after week after week if that happened? I hate to say this because I know like it's our job on the show and all this stuff. If Bill Goldberg comes out with the belt on my television, I'm turning it off. And you can tell me how it went.
Okay, perfect.
Okay? Because I have less than zero interest in watching him or watching somebody go up against him. Like, I just don't even understand. I don't get how John Cena has been booked since the heel turn. I don't get the R-Truth stuff. I don't get Bill Goldberg. Think of the way, and look, if you're a pro WWE fan and you're listening right now, you're like, yeah, but Sting. Yeah, but what, Dustin Rhodes or some of the elder statesmen in AEW? Did they make Sting the star, or did Sting actually help somebody else become a bigger star?
The latter there, Lee.
Right.
Did Sting ever challenge for the world championship in AEW?
He absolutely did not. No, he did win. He won the tag team championship, but that tag team championship, that team was always elevated by the other younger star that is going to become a bigger star.
Mm-hmm.
The person that he was mentoring, helping. And I dare say, I don't know this about Tony Khan or AEW, but if they tried that and it wasn't working, they probably go away from it. I think they did it the way they did because it was actually working. Because they didn't just throw Sting in a world title match and then wonder if it's going to work.
Yeah.
And Dustin Rhodes, I think, has been a big help behind the scenes. I don't love that he's a Ring of Honor tag team champion, but Ring of Honor is not even the big company.
Yeah.
So,
and you notice a theme with that too, by the way, with Sting and Dustin Rhodes, and you touched on it there. Their tag team partners are younger guys that can carry more of the load for the older guy.
well, he's putting the Von Erich kids over.
Exactly.
He's trying to help Sammy Guevara repair an image that got torn down.
Yep.
There are, whether we like it or not, I don't love watching Dustin Rhodes in the ring. I didn't love watching Sting in the ring, but understanding of what they were doing and helping other people and be able to do a couple of spots while not being the primary focus. I'm just really worried, I guess, Zach, past the anger. I'm really worried that the WWE really only cares about their bottom line. And if we bring Goldberg back, if we bring Cena back, if we do this, if we like even putting Randy Orton in title matches, and if we do this, will people come? Will people buy this stuff? Even if it's a short time period, will they watch Goldberg on a Saturday night's main event? And then they just worry about the bottom line and they worry about the now and they don't worry about the future. That's what I'm actually worried about.
Yeah.
I'm just stunned by this.
Yeah. I do have an additional question, I will say, on the Bill Goldberg stuff. Is there even the slightest bit of intrigue into the match, not because it's going to be good or anything like that, but because it could be one of those disaster classes that's so entertaining to watch, you can't believe that they put it on TV?
No, because I trust Gunther to not have that happen.
I see.
I don't think that can happen with Gunther. I think he's too good. Not that it's going to be great. It just won't be what you're talking about, that car wreck that you can't turn away from. Now, I don't want to give them credit, but let's call a spade here. If this was their plan, it is the biggest reason they took that belt off Jey Uso in 51 days.
Yep.
Because Jey Uso and Goldberg had train wreck written all over it.
Battle of entrances, right? Yes.
But imagine that. So you asked that question, the intrigue. I would say yes, because I would expect Jey Uso and Goldberg to be an absolute train wreck. And the reason that they put that belt on Gunther 51 days after is so this match will not be a train wreck. I'm convinced of that. They never would have done this with Jey because Jay's not good enough.
Yep.
So is there intrigue that Gunther becomes, I want to call it unprofessional, but that he gets a couple of licks in on Goldberg and kind of makes him mad? The intrigue is there for me to hope that happens, but I know Gunther's too much of a professional to do that, right?
Yeah.
Well, that sucks.
Get a little stiffer on the forearm shots to the back.
Yeah, just one or two.
Yeah.
Would be fine.
Goldberg notices it a little bit.
Not supposed to German suplex Goldberg, but he does anyway.
Yep. Deadlifts him too. Because you know Goldberg's going to sandbag him if he does do that.
Yeah. But Gunther could handle it.
Yeah.
I would love that, but that won't happen.
I will also say, because I know we are down on Goldberg, and I'm not disagreeing with any of what you're saying. But if there's one thing that I do think that some people, wrestlers, should take from Bill Goldberg to apply to their character, is at least the energy that he brings and the this presence that he has, whether you like it or not. You do know it is Bill Goldberg. And I will say, with the promo this past Monday and how direct and to the point it was, in the land of WWE, where we have these 20-minute promos having to explain every nook and cranny of the story, that I could at least appreciate Bill Goldberg coming out in his thick Georgian accent saying that I want a title shot against you. You're mine and you're next. Straight and to the point. I can at least appreciate that with Bill Goldberg. I know that's not a very high bar. In fact, it's a very low bar to clear, but it is a bar that has been cleared nonetheless.
I'm actually disappointed in you.
What? I'm just saying.
I am. It was awful.
I'm just
awful.
I'm just trying to bring some positivity.
No, short and awful doesn't make it better than longer and awful. It's awful.
I will say I would much rather a 2-minute Goldberg disaster class, because at least it's short and out of the way, and at least I could say, well, that happened, as opposed to a lengthy 15-20 minute Jey Uso match. That's for sure. Because at least it'll be short and done, and I can get it out of the way and go, oh, well, that sucked. As opposed to the torture that I would have to go through, having to see Jey Uso work a hold at the 11-minute mark, be like, come on! Can you not match this energy from the entrance into your in-ring work, please?
Dude, Jey Uso is not great, but he is so much better than Goldberg. It's not like it's not even in the same category.
Oh, as an overall worker, for sure. But I will get at least a little bit more entertainment from Goldberg screwing things up than I will a Jey Uso match.
All right.
You know people are going to cheer in Atlanta. That's the thing. I'm just saying.
Yes, I do, but it's embarrassing.
Oh, it is.
Like, what are they going to do next? Like, my fear is that, what are they going to do? Bring Hogan back?
Let's run it back, Lee. Let's run back Hogan and Goldberg and run the Georgia Dome.
And that's some of the disappointment I have, because that was a big moment.
Yep.
Whether I liked Hogan or not, or liked Goldberg or not, watching that moment and the fans and how you talked about his presence. I would agree with you in 1998 when that match occurred.
Mm-hmm.
2025, I do not agree with you with him coming out on television, and I don't find that he has any presence. But the mystique of Goldberg from the late 90s and into a little bit of the 2000s, it definitely was there. I would still show the reaction of 40,000 people in the Georgia Dome to people who had never watched, going, this is what they're all trying to get to.
Yep.
Because that place went bananas.
Bobby Heenan was fantastic in his call too of that match.
Yeah. Like, that place went bananas. The fact that they gave that match away on free television is, a whole other story, but that's not my problem as a viewer.
Yeah.
And I remember that moment and thinking, I don't like either guy, but this is what wrestling is supposed to be. It's supposed to have that sort of engagement. Zach, that was 27 years ago.
Yeah.
When were you born?
I was born in 1997, so I would have been one. I would have been one when the Goldberg Hogan match happened.
Right. So when the mystique and the fans and the presence and all these things, you were one. Folks, Hornsey is not one anymore.
My first exposure to Bill Goldberg was actually when he was a cameo appearance in the Looney Tunes live action movie in 2003.
That is really random.
I know. That was my first exposure to Bill Goldberg, and I remember looking and not thinking anything of it at the time. Then when I got into wrestling more and found out about this Bill Goldberg guy, I was like, wow, he looks like the guy from the Looney Tunes Back in Action live action movie. And there he was.
There he was.
Yeah. He had presence in that film, let me tell you.
I can't remember. You'll have to remind me. My thought is Raven, but I'm not looking it up, obviously.
Okay.
Who did he beat for the US title?
I believe it was Raven.
Okay, see?
Yeah. That with the Ravens flock, they were all trying to run in. And
yeah, I can't remember yesterday, but I can remember probably a US title match in 97 or whenever it was.
Yeah.
But when he was coming in and destroying people, it was, the thing, and there wasn't that much competition. But when he suddenly got to Raven and he absolutely destroyed the entire flock and won the US title, I'm like, this isn't going to stop anytime soon. Anyway, it's another example to me of the almighty dollar and lazy booking, because I honestly don't believe that the majority of the crowd wants to see Bill Goldberg in 2025. This feels like a Hall of Fame induction. It feels like we're going to try and do a make good because of how popular he was 20 years ago or 25 years ago. And people will pay to see it once. So we're going to make some money and bring him back, and it's all going to be feel good. But nobody really wants to see it. Because I know there are people out there that do, but you can't tell me it's the majority of people.
No, I highly doubt. I'm looking at it from a pure sicko, like, this could be a disaster kind of match, but not looking at this like, oh, this is going to be fantastic or anything like that.
Now, was that done on purpose because Sicko was part of the flock?
Very nice. Yeah, Sick Boy, right? Wasn't that his name? Sick Boy?
Sick Boy.
Yeah. Billy Kidman was in the Ravens flock as well.
Yeah.
I think Perry Saturn was in that group at that time.
It was, yeah.
Yeah.
So let's talk about Mexico. Let's get to what we've been promising, because, of course, Dynamite was in Mexico City, AEW, CMLL, you get the WWE acquiring AAA, and both federations are looking into Mexico, and I know you have some theories as to why.
Yes, I don't know. Did you catch the Grand Slam Mexico show yesterday?
Yes.
Yes, I thought that was a tremendous show yesterday.
I think, listen, I'm not trying to be pro AEW. They have been much better in the past month, and their shows, to me, have been like the 4-hour extravaganzas. I thought would be terrible because it's such a long time. They've been really good. I've really enjoyed their programming over the last couple of weeks, and last night was no different.
Yeah, I thought it was so good. I love the atmosphere at Arena Mexico. I was hoping it would translate through, and it did. I've not been able to watch everything from CMLL. I try to catch like notable matches, and try and at least get a finger on the pulse of what's going on in Mexico, so I can at least follow along and understand what's kind of going on there. Because I think that market, as we've been kind of teasing in the last episode, that's a market that's continuing to be something that's being looked at now by both companies, with AEW and WWE. I think, you go back to when the first sort of, how you say, the first couple of weeks in the relationship between AEW and CMLL was going, and they were just trying to work with each other. Hey, let's use some CMLL talent. AEW was coming out of their relationship with AAA, and now it's grown to where I don't think people realize how big of a deal it is that a major wrestling promotion that's not CMLL running Arena Mexico, and not only running Arena Mexico, but running it on a big, on television as a big sort of event. It's a pretty big deal. There's very little other promotions that have ran Mexico, ran Arena Mexico in the history of the building. And it's notable because CMLL owns that building as well. So all the money that comes in, they make 100% profit on. So it's smart for them. Long history in that building. And so I think now, as this relationship has grown with CMLL and AEW, is, obviously they've gotten a good stranglehold on North America now with Canada, and now starting to get into Mexico. They've partnered with New Japan as well, and have a little bit of a share in the Japanese market. When you're WWE and you're looking at everything going on with your competitor, and we've talked about how they've been doing a lot of counter booking recently, having a lot of different events, whether it be the smallest of smalls with Evolve or NXT, and now moving it up to the Saturday night's main events and other events that are being held by WWE that's trying to run counter to AEW. When you're WWE and you're trying to expand more, you're trying to have that global expansion, you're trying to reach different markets. Now that if you're WWE, you're seeing this expansion of the relationship with CMLL, you see this Grand Slam Mexico show, you start to, if you're WWE and you want to have total market share, then you start kind of going into territorial mode and you try and go and make these different partnerships. So now we've seen them, partner with TNA and partner with Pro Wrestling Noah and partner now with AAA. In fact, buying the company only a couple of days after it was announced that AEW was running Arena Mexico. So it's really become an area that's started to turn into a battleground to try and get a stranglehold of market share. In the case of WWE, they want to be the company that's associated with professional wrestling. When you say pro wrestling, the first thing that should be on people's minds is WWE. And in the case of AEW, I have found personally, and you may counter if you disagree, but with AEW, they want to be associated with pro wrestling, but they also want to partner with other promotions like a New Japan and with a CMLL and be a little bit more collaborative, as opposed to being the first thing you think of and being the only game in town when it comes to professional wrestling. So this Mexico market is really fascinating. It's really kind of growing. Obviously, with WWE purchasing AAA, they've also got some of the time slots that are there that AAA was able to get. That Worlds Collide show, I thought was a solid show too. We talked about it after the Money in the Bank stuff, but I thought they put together a good show. But just fascinated to kind of see this battleground being formed between both these companies where they're trying to expand. They're trying to get that market share. And I think Mexico is something to just kind of keep an eye on for the next little bit, as both of these American companies try and, stake their claim into the professional wrestling business in Mexico.
Yeah, I think you laid that out really well. And I don't disagree. The WWE just wants to be the number one anywhere they go. And I don't know how you can see it otherwise. Like, they just, it's kind of in the Vince McMahon, I want to buy up the territories and make up my own. Well, maybe not exactly, but I mean, they bought AAA, and do they want to make it kind of their own? Yeah. And AEW has a little bit more of a working relationship, which I think is really good. But do you think that Mexico gets swallowed up? Like, I guess like other territories in the 80s and the 90s that Vince did to a lot of the territories. Do you think that Mexico ends up being simply a fodder system and can't thrive on their own? Or do they still have a way with some of the recent developments to stand on their own?
I think the latter, only because they have that history of professional wrestling ingrained in their culture, similar to Japan. Like, WWE has not been able to make the successful move into having their promotion be the number one in Japan or in Mexico because of the cultures that are established around pro wrestling in those countries. It's much easier for them to go into a Europe or into Canada or other areas. I know that in the past they've tried to go to India as well and try and establish a presence for WWE. So it's easier to do that, but they've never been able to really break into the market in Mexico or Japan because of their ingrained culture and ingrained history. So I don't think I would like to think that WWE or any other big American promotion won't be able to go in and swallow it up. It's going to take a lot of time for them to really establish themselves as a base. I think Mexico will be able to stand on its own, but we are seeing right now when it comes to Japan, and, I say with AEW, it is a little bit more collaborative, but they are also, they have taken talents from Japan. You're seeing New Japan kind of reeling a little bit right now. where they don't have their Okadas and they don't have their Ospreys and they don't have their Jay Whites. And so it's led to a situation there, partly because of AEW, but also partly, I would argue, because of the booking there. They've not been able to establish their next gen crop of stars to kind of fill in those voids like they used to in the past. I think in the case of Mexico, as long as they continue to have their stars, I mean, Mystico, I mean, we saw it yesterday as we're recording, the entrance that he had and how the people love him in Arena Mexico. He really came across like this big star on TV, the way they were singing along with his song and the match he had with MJF, which I thought was just that's some old school pro wrestling right there, MJF versus Mystico. Thought it was so great.
It was way better than I thought it was going to be.
Yeah.
And I guess especially with MJF, I had a little bit in my head of kind of what the WWE does, that MJF was going to run all over him and just make sure that MJF was the star. And man, oh man, as you said, like I just thought they did a really good job at making Mystico what he is.
Yeah.
Right? Like, and what people believe him to be. They didn't bury him.
No. Absolutely not. It was you came away with it, quite honestly, thinking that they might do a rematch down the line, and it would be a heated rematch afterwards. If they were to do hair versus mask with MJF and Mystico, I think that I would be all for that because of the way that they built that match.
Yep.
But going back to the original point in terms of, there are established stars like a Mystico in CMLL. There's other guys that are able to carry the load. It's going to be a matter of if WWE sees a lot of these guys from CMLL and they care about going into Mexico and they want to load up on their roster. Because the thing about the AAA roster is that it's not as deep or stacked as maybe people think. There's not a lot of guys full-time under contract there. Obviously, they got Vikingo, which is a big name to have. And they've got other guys like Aerostar, I believe, is under their employ now. But CMLL has a bigger roster to work with. So if WWE looks at the CMLL roster and they start kind of plucking guys from the CML roster so that they could, fill out their AAA shows more and try and grow AAA, then that would be a big problem. But it kind of goes back into trying to have this star-making machine go through in AEW and try and get some of these, or rather in CMLL, and try and establish the next crop. And, the next gen of stars, I don't know if you saw this, Lee, but Mascara Dorada is a guy they're really trying to build in CMLL as their next star after Mystico. This is not the same Mascara Dorada that was Grand Metalik in WWE. It's a different Mascara Dorada. And they're hoping he can be the guy that can take the mantle and be the next guy. There was a promo that I forget who it was. I think it was Bandito cut saying, "Oh, I'd love to see Mascara Dorada in AEW." And it did not get big applause from the Mexican crowd. It goes back to the crowd kind of wanting their guys still in the promotion. So all that to say, I think Mexico will be able to stand tall as long as there's no raids of talent that WWE would put in or raids of talent that AEW would put in. And they've got the history behind them to at least be all right. And in the case of CMLL, they own the building that they run, which helps a lot too in terms of being able to run shows. So I think they'll be okay at the end.
I actually think it can become bigger because I do think the acquisition of AAA is just, I don't know. I just don't have a lot of faith that they're going to do things properly, which makes me think that the other company is going to thrive because they're not going to do things properly. Like and it's not the same, but as Penta and Ray Phoenix come over, I just thought that they were going to be such big stars, and they kind of presented at least Penta that way early, and it's all gone to nothing.
Yeah.
And if those are massive stars, so is Vikingo going to be okay? Maybe, because he's great. So sometimes, even if they try to screw you up, if you're just great, you'll get through. But who else? And so what can CMLL do? And they might be able to thrive. I kind of hope so.
Yeah, me too.
And I have a lot of faith that AEW is not going to go in and just put themselves over, especially after watching last night. I thought it was an incredible show.
Yeah.
So to be able to make that go forward, how much do you think they're going to be involved now? AEW and the CMLL relationship.
Well, I think the way that the reaction has been to the show yesterday, I think this relationship's going to blossom a little bit more. Wouldn't shock me if they decided in the future. You have the Forbidden Door show. Obviously, Forbidden Door built being more around AEW and New Japan's relationship. They've got the show in London. But in the future, if they wanted to go back to Arena Mexico and run a Forbidden Door show with AEW versus CMLL talent, I think they could totally pull that off and do it on pay-per-view. Like, I don't know how anybody could look at this show yesterday and not see it as an overwhelming success for not only AEW, but CMLL as well. The partnership, they got a whole bunch of different eyeballs now onto Arena Mexico, and more people are now aware of just how the historic elements of Arena Mexico and the wrestlers in CMLL. I know they've gotten a couple of them on AEW TV in the past, but to see them in their true environment in Arena Mexico was I think was so important as a viewer to kind of see it and understand, oh, these are why these guys are, stars, are popular, because they're getting over with crowds over in Mexico. So and I'm just looking at the roster here at CMLL, and I'm just seeing like there's a whole bunch of guys that are on this roster. So there's a lot that they can work with here if they wanted to and really expand this partnership. I would love to see them go back to Arena Mexico now. I don't see why they wouldn't at this point. I think it just makes so much sense the way that the show yesterday did with the Grand Slam.
Yeah, I would agree. And I think you hit the nail on the head of how I felt after going in thinking, I hope AEW doesn't swallow up CMLL in the show. And I came out thinking that that's, almost a perfect wrestling show, because when you do those collaborations, it is supposed to make everybody stronger. That's the goal, to make everybody better. And I felt that after the show. I did feel like all sides benefited. And that's the goal, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like when you do these things. So, I'm trying not, again, to be so pro AEW, but I watched that show and thought everybody benefited from it. That's what you want, because that builds morale. From the people that are putting these shows on, the wrestlers themselves believe that you're going to do the right thing. I think AEW's had a great month. I think some of their shows have been fantastic, and they're building the right way. And to me, All In is building towards like a WrestleMania style card where it feels really important.
For sure.
And that's really good. That's I think where you want to be. Now, what they do with it, we'll see. But I think on our next episode, Zach, we'll actually talk about the storylines and where they're going to go here in the next few weeks. But this has been fun. You let me yell about Bill Goldberg, and I appreciate that. I didn't want to tear down all the 6-year-olds listening. But it was so stark for me on Monday. I keep saying last week, feels like last week. When I finished the show and kind of went down and go, that's a good show. Like Zach and I had a good discussion. We got some really good input from a lot of people, and Bill Goldberg was the first person I saw on my television. And Zach texting me before I went to bed going, I hope he wins the title.
Yeah, I do hope he wins the title. For the content.
You texted that to me. I was like pretty much the last thing I saw before I went to sleep.
Yeah, I think I angered you so much. I did not get a text afterwards, and I was like, I think I angered Lee with that one.
No, it was that I was falling asleep and saw it, and I'm like, I just don't.
I don't want to engage with this right now.
No, if I get angry again, then I won't fall asleep for 2 hours. And I'm supposed to get up in 6 hours. Like I don't have 2 hours right now to be this angry. So I just can't be. That's the only reason you didn't get a response.
I got you. I was trying to work a heel gimmick there.
Yeah, I know. But you got to know if I'm getting up at 5 a.m, you got to get me before 10. Like right. It's just So, all right, that'll do it for another episode, but we will get into some of the specifics, I think, with AEW when we talk. And I'm sure, Zach, that'll be just within a few days because that's what we do now 3 times this week. And we have a couple more episodes of Dark Side of the Ring to get to. So still a lot going on. And I am excited about not where WWE is going, but I am excited where AEW is going. And some of the things that have been happening to get ready in the next month. I think they're doing a really good job. So
yeah, I agree. I think there's one more episode of Dark Side left, and then we're done. If I
is that it? Just the season finale?
Just the season finale. I think that, and then that'll be it.
Okay. My mind says right now that we actually skipped one.
Trying to think, we got everything I thought.
Okay,
well,
you're the logistics guy. I promise you on this show. I am not the logistics guy. So
right.
If you say so, then it's great because I just trust you. And then if you're wrong, I pile on.
That's right.
Right.
You want to talk about heel gimmicks. Like that's where it comes in.
Yeah. And you're usually not wrong. So 95% of the time, it's like, yeah, Zach. I mean, I don't give you praise, but like, we got it. But then the 5% or 2% or 0.1%, man, that's good times.
Yeah. Yeah.
Hornsey, you've been very good here this week.
Appreciate it.
Yeah, very, very good this week. So we will get to the specifics of some AEW and some WWE as well, and try and find out what they're doing and talk about some of the positives. Maybe Karrion Kross gets a match soon. Kind of hoping he does. I'm into the character that's not wrestling, but he needs to get in the ring soon.
I was gonna say, are we talking about positives still here? That's
a positive for me. But we'll get to some more positives next week. Apparently, you will not be on the positive Karrion Kross train.
No, I won't be on that one, unfortunately.
Okay, but that's fine.
I'll wait for the next stop.
Yeah, number one selling T-shirt in WWE for the last month. Yeah.
Oh yeah. So is R-Truth, and look at how that's going.
I don't think he was the number one selling T-shirt for a month.
That's true. He did have the number one selling T-shirt at one point, but
yes, for like 3 seconds when he came back.
Yeah.
However,
we'll see.
Okay, we'll talk in a couple days, but this was fun, and I hope people learned something about Mexico.
A little bit more.
And about how old Bill Goldberg actually is.
Yes.
All right. For Hornsey, I'm Lee Versage. Thanks for listening to another edition of This is Wrestling.